anyone who's doing a low histamine diet, tell me how many of you have actually started introducing the foods that you react to. That's my question to you.
Yeah, well, I think you've almost just finished the point, the point there, in the sense of, the one of the major downsides of the low histamine diet is that it doesn't actually address all of the other triggers and contributors to histamine overload. Like, it just doesn't address that at all.
But why?
We've
I just
we've
don't understand
some
why.
Well, no, I think it's how the system works or has worked for, millennia, is that we kind of find something where, oh, you're having histamine issues, and oh, food, something that you consume every single day, has various histamine levels. There's some high histamine, there's low histamine foods. Oh, when I eat lower histamine foods, I feel a bit better. So we deduce, oh, low histamine diet equals no histamine issues. But also, I think it comes back to, the two main working theories around an overproduction of histamine. So one being the case of allergies or MCAS or gut dysbiosis or something like that. And I think you covered that a little bit in what you were saying. But the other one being this idea of an impairment in your DAO enzyme. So your DAO enzyme is an enzyme in the gut, essentially, that breaks down excess histamine. And there can be many factors, but likely, medications, stress, genetics, those have been found to impair, like in the terms of slow down or reduce the ability of DAO to break down histamine. And so I think when you're thinking in the context of that, and particularly because it's an enzyme that's in the gut and breaking down histamine in the gut, we just automatically associate that with diet. And so I think we've just kind of built in that narrative. Whereas actually, in reality, if you look at the studies around the DAO enzyme, we know that there's there's a threshold for how much histamine that whole system can actually break down in and of itself. And there's a lot of people that are out histamining that threshold in and of itself. So the body's natural inbuilt system for processing out excess histamine is in itself, even if it's, the idea is that if it's impaired, is that it can't keep up. But I would argue that based on the research, even in the case where maybe it seems relatively okay or there isn't a clear impairment, some people are getting so much excess histamine in their body because they're reacting so heavily to their environment in ways that we never did previously, that the DAO enzyme, that natural function, can't keep up.
And HNMT as well.
And HNMT.
Because they're overtaxed and they're overworked. And then you've got to remember things like black tea, green tea, they can also inhibit diamine oxidase production. Alcohol inhibits it. But wait, there's one more. One thing that people have forgot to talk about with histamine. So you also have the other hygienic amines.
I know. But before you go on to that, just with the DAO, because of discovering this DAO enzyme, there's been so much work into developing a supplemental form of DAO enzyme with the idea that it can break down even more histamine. But again, we actually don't have the research really to show that adding more DAO enzyme will actually break down
doing nothing to the immune system.
Will actually break down more histamine. So we don't, it's kind of shoddy at best. Like, there's still a lot more research that needs to be done. So we don't know if that actually is a legit way of breaking down more histamine.